Hi everybody, my name is MK Gunn and I'm with the San Juan Mountains Association. At the San Juan Mountains Association, we are committed to educating the public about our public lands so that you will want to get out on public lands and protect them for future generations. Exploring a river to see what's living in it can really be very easy as long as you keep in mind safety. Now right now this river is pretty low. Later in the summer it's going to be really high and dangerous. But you can explore rivers all year round as long as you're mindful of the water level, that river and stream, and especially as long as adults are watching out for those smaller children, everyone's being safe. You don't need many tools or supplies. You don't even need muck boots. You can use sandals, or you can just take an old pair of tennis shoes. And then almost everyone has an ice cube tray in the house. You know, this is just a leftover from your deli takeout. Even if you don't have a tub like this, you can just use a bucket. Any kind of bucket, just something so you can take the water away from the river, and then it's easier for you to see what you find. Okay. We are going to see what sort of benthic macroinvertebrates we can find, or BMIs. So first, we'll fill up our tub with water so we can put our little collected critters in here. And then I'm just gonna look under rocks and see what we find. Oh yeah, see there's some little guys right here. You can even just swish them around in this one. Oh yeah, look, we've got a couple of little stonefly nymphs there. They're long and skinny. We've got 3 tails. And you don't have to go far. You don't even have to get your feet wet. Ah, we got a mayfly. Little mayfly nymph there. Swish them around. Oh, that might be another stonefly too. And yeah, if you don't want to get your feet wet, just go ahead. Just grab one right by the shore. Oh, look at, there's a little casing from a caddisfly there too. Good stuff. And then you can keep it over here in your bucket. Oh, let's check out this big rock. Oh, look at all those guys. That one's just absolutely crawling with life. That's incredible.
Hi, I'm Mike Bukowski, also with the San Juan Mountains Association. Let's take a look now at the critters that you dug up.
Most of the critters that MK just found are called benthic macroinvertebrates. Now that might seem like a big fancy science word, but it's actually pretty simple. Benthic means that they live at the bottom of a river or pond. Macro means that they're big enough to see, and invertebrate means that they have no backbone. So a benthic macroinvertebrate is just a big bug, big enough to see without a microscope, that likes to live under rocks in a river.
All right, so now that we've got our beautiful bin full of macroinvertebrates, we're gonna try to take a look at what some of them are. So we're just gonna take a spoon And what you can do is just catch one nymph, and we're going to try to fill each ice cube tray with one single nymph for macroinvertebrate. I'm using those two words. They really mean the same thing. All right, so here's another one right here. We're looking for anything moving. We're going to try to put into an individual ice tin. Make sure you be very gentle as you do this.
My goal during this part is to put one single macroinvertebrate into each of the cubes in the ice cube tray. So I should get 16 in total.
And there is our tray full of macroinvertebrates.
Now if we look at this guy and this one here, they're a little different color. That one's got some green on it, but they both have that little fat tail right there. And they kind of look like a long worm with 6 legs right up at the very front.
So if we look at this ID sheet, which of the ones on here looks like a long, fat, C-shaped worm that still has 6 legs right up at the front? It would be right up there at the top left. It's a caddisfly larva.
Same thing for these two guys right here. So this one and this one both have the same kind of, that long tube at the back is actually a case made out of plant matter that it finds on the stream bed.
Looking at our identification sheet again, where can we find a macroinvertebrate that has a long case that it makes out of plant matter or rocks? Also right up there at the top left. So that's just a slightly different species of caddisfly larva. And these are really cool. They build that little house out of sticks that they collect from the stream bed, and they put it together, and then they live inside of it for protection, almost like a hermit crab. Now finally, you might notice that the rest of the cubes are filled with these really small ones that swim by wriggling themselves up and down. Now if you look more closely, you'll notice that they have 2 long tails extending off the back, and they still have those 6 legs at the front. So looking back to our ID card, which one has 6 legs and 2 long tails at the back? It is this one, the stonefly nymph. So this one you can distinguish because it has those 2 tails, and if you look just to the left, you'll see a mayfly nymph, which usually has 3. And usually mayfly nymphs are a little fatter because they have their gills on the back side.
So you all probably know about caterpillars and how they do this process called metamorphosis and turn into a butterfly, right? But did you know that the insects that you're looking at in this tray right now actually are just like the caterpillar, except that they're a version that lives underwater. And the adult version, like the butterfly, is going to look a lot different from the butterfly as well. So we're going to check out now what kind of adults these little creatures, these nymphs, are going to metamorphose into.
So if you've been hunting under rocks in a river, chances are you found a few macroinvertebrates, like this one right here, a mayfly. Notice the 3 tails? But what you might not know is that this is just like a kid to a very different adult insect. When this guy has lived underwater for about a year, it'll swim to the surface and it will start to crawl out of its old skin, and a very different looking adult will emerge, complete with wings and a long tail. Soon, this adult will mate and lay a big cluster of eggs that will sink to the bottom of the river and spread out into thousands of tiny eggs. And within minutes, thousands and thousands of new nymphs, baby mayflies, will be hatching out and swimming about in the river. One thing that makes these macroinvertebrates different from caterpillars is that they don't do a pupa or cocoon stage for their metamorphosis. Because of this, their metamorphosis is called an incomplete metamorphosis. Another amazing thing is that while mayflies spend up to a year in their nymph stage living under rocks, they only spend 24 hours as an adult. Can you imagine living as a kid for almost the entirety of your life and only one day as an adult? Mayflies do.
So another amazing thing about these nymphs is they can actually tell us how healthy or polluted the river behind us is right now. And the reason why is that they love really cold, clean water that has a lot of oxygen in it. And if the water isn't like perfectly clean for them, they'll actually die out and we won't find them.
What we're going to do now is count the number of each type of macroinvertebrate we found in our ice tray, and we'll tally them up on our ID sheet. I found 3 of the worm-like caddisflies, 2 of the caddisflies that built the stick shelters on their backs, for a total of 5 caddisflies. I found 6 stonefly nymphs with the 2 tails, and I also found 5 mayfly nymphs with the 3 tails. And that altogether accounted for all 16 of the macroinvertebrates I collected in my ice tray. So looking at the whole ID sheet, notice that we found only macroinvertebrates in group 1 at the top, which are sensitive to pollutants. These are the ones that need perfectly clear oxygenated water in order to survive. If the water gets just a little bit polluted, they'll die out. There are 2 other groups though. Group 2 is somewhat sensitive to pollutants, and group 3 is very tolerant to pollutants. Notice that this water had 16, or we collected 16 from group 1 and 0 from group 2 and 0 from group 3. So what does this mean? That we found only macroinvertebrates that need perfectly good water? It means that the water quality is good. But what sorts of macroinvertebrates would we find if we were in polluted water? Well, remember that if the water's polluted, the only ones that can survive are the ones that are very tolerant of pollution. So we could expect to find a lot of the group 3 macroinvertebrates and maybe just 1 or 2 of the group 2 macroinvertebrates.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining us today. It was super fun to explore this river. We hope that you learned a new way to explore the nature around you by safely exploring a river and looking for the life in it. We also learned about metamorphosis and how rivers are home to many of the baby forms of insects that will then be metamorphosis into adults. And finally, we learned about how those baby insects, called nymphs, what they can tell us about the health of a river or stream.
Yeah, thank you again so much for joining us today. We are the San Juan Mountains Association, and just a reminder that there are so many rivers and streams out on public lands that you can visit, and those public lands are there because of support from the public, because of people like you that care about the land and want to share it with other people and protect it. So we look forward to seeing you all again next time.